Don't forget to tell us when you're leaving the meeting, John, will you?
Pardon?
Okay.
Look, I said, don't forget to tell us when you're leaving.
Councillors, please.
Good evening, members, councillors, officers, members of the public and press. Welcome to this meeting of the council. This meeting is being live streamed on the website and recorded. I will now hand over to the council's managing director, Denise. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening to everyone. I will now run through some of the working practices and etiquette for remote virtual meetings. Firstly, I would like to remind members of the virtual meeting protocol, which has been circulated to all members previously. Members are reminded to remain on mute until requested through the chair or myself to speak, which will eliminate background noises and any unintentional disturbances.
Sorry to interrupt, Denise, but it looks like Mr. Feeney's been added to the meeting again and will need to be removed before we proceed. So somebody keeps adding him.
Mikey's allowed to be added now that the meeting started.
I thought it was only at the point where he was going to ask a question.
I've taken legal advice and that's what I'm advised. So when called to speak, members, please remember to unmute yourselves, and you're reminded of the council procedure rules in respect of speaking once during debate and lengths for speeches. We will begin the meeting by way of roll call of all those in attendance remotely, and may I request members confirm they have a paper copy of the agenda and can both hear and see councillors in the meeting. I will now hand over to Democratic Services to begin the roll call.
Thank you. Starting off with Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher.
Yes, present, can see and hear and have all the papers.
Thank you. And I've got apologies from Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher. So moving on to Councillor Brewer. I'll come back to Councillor Brewer. Councillor Brown.
Yes, I can see and hear everything and I have the papers and I'm present. Thank you.
Councillor Buchan.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
Yes, obviously I'm on the phone, but I've still got the paperwork here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, I've got everything.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Yes, all is fine, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Howson.
Yes, I have everything.
Thank you. Councillor Hunter. No. Councillor James.
I can see and hear, and I believe I have all the papers.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Lauderdale.
Yes, I'm on the phone and I've got my papers.
Thank you. Councillor Lindridge.
See and hear and I've got the...
Thank you. Councillor Little.
Yes to all.
Thank you. And Councillor Loynes as chair. I can see
Yes to all. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Marshall.
Yes to all.
Councillor Moore.
Yes to all.
Councillor Prince.
Yes to everything, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Richardson.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Carl Richardson.
Yes, I've got everything, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I've got all.
Thank you. Councillor Stokel.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Councillor Tennant.
Present, and I have all the paperwork I can see and hear.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, I have everything.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Yes to everything.
Thank you. And Councillor Young.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Can I now ask if there are any other members joining the meeting that I've not called? So that would be Councillor Hunter and Councillor Brewer. No. Okay, I'll hand you back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. I've got no apologies for absence either. Moving on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members with any interests have been asked to declare in advance of the meeting. Have any members got any interest to declare at this meeting, please? No? Okay, thank you. There's no business required by statute to be done before any other business. We'll move on to item 4, to approve the minutes of the last meeting of council on the 17th of September as a correct record. Is everybody in agreement with the minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you.
No, I'm
Who said-
sorry.
Who said
Sorry,
no?
ma'am. That was me. I put my hand up, but obviously it's not
Is that
noticeable.
Councillor Hamilton? Yes,
It
I've just
is.
seen it.
It
Yeah.
is.
What's wrong, Councillor Hamilton?
It's a request, really, ma'am. It's in relation to the minutes from September, and it's a request for the decision on the allotment review to be returned to and looked at again by its respective committee. Following the decision last month, I've received numerous phone calls from allotment holders who feel that the decisions made by officers in March 2020 have been undertaken without proper meaningful consultation. The allotment holders have admitted to feeling somewhat hoodwinked by officers and feel that they've not been actively consulted on the allotment service review. My concern is that the allotment community feel that they are, and I quote here, being bullied and coerced into contracts and are threatened with eviction when they challenge those officers who were involved with the allotments and the decisions based around them. What we don't want is for the council and its officers to be perceived as bullies, or that they are suppressing holders into complying with decisions on the basis that they will have their allotments taken away should they refuse to comply. This is not how I view this council and its officers, and I know that it's not how we come to agreements with our communities when making decisions, and as such, in the spirit of goodwill and openness, I would therefore respectfully request that we rescind the current decision and return it to its respective committee for further discussion between council officers and the allotment community.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I'm going to pass you over to Hayley, our solicitor. Who'll explain. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a similar motion to what was previously proposed at the last meeting, and under Rule 14.2, a motion similar to one that has previously been rejected can't be considered by council within the 6 months since it was last considered. So Rule 14.2 applies in that it can't be considered.
Can I come back on that, Hayley?
No, I'm sorry. Hayley's answered the question. I've got Councillor Richardson. Carl Richardson.
Yeah, I've got well, my issue is that what the minutes are saying, what was agreed, the point is the councillors did not have the full information. For instance, we said that there was discussions that went on with the allotment holders, and I think a lot of people, like myself, were under the impression that the allotment holders agreed with what the council has decided. And I think if we're going to go down this particular path, it's very important to have the allotment holders on side to make sure that the things that we've been proposing are going to be implemented. It is no use doing something and saying something if the vast majority of people are actually against what we're doing. You know, we need to make sure that this is done. And I think what Councillor Hamilton was saying earlier, and what's frightening, is that people are being bullied into it. And I think we need to look at this again. Can't wait 6 months.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. I've got Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher.
Brenda Harrison.
Thank you,
Is
Madam
now
Mayor.
joining.
With all due respect, I believe that the motion that I, suggested and spoke on at the last full council was actually rejected by the members within the Labour group. So I couldn't have been clearer. And now coming back and ask for that to be rescinded. And in the spirit of trying to move things on, I'm quite well aware of the rule that you cannot change something within 6 months, but we could move that there is a further review of the rules pertaining to allotment holders, and we could send that to neighbourhood services. But unfortunately, the decision
Brenda Harrison
that we have already agreed at last
is now
council will have
exiting.
to stand for 6 months, but we could move a resolution where we could have a further review of allotment holders and their rights, responsibilities, and undertake further consultation, but we couldn't amend that until March.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Akers-Belcher. I've got Councillor Shane Moore. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what frustrates me about this is this
isn't just a decision that was taken in September out of the blue. This had gone on for months and months and months. There had been consultation. It had been through the committee process, and when it came to full council, every single member gets their papers at least 7 days in advance, or should. So it's not, Madam Mayor, if I can be so blunt, it's not my fault, and it's nobody else's fault if members don't read their paperwork appropriately and don't understand what they're voting on when they make decisions. And as far as I'm concerned, this has been a decision that's been made now. I appreciate there is a vocal minority within the allotment holders who don't like one or two of the decisions. However, it can't be changed for 6 months, and therefore I would suggest that we review it in 6 months' time, if there is a desire for it.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I've got a couple more hands up, but unless it's anything to add to it.
Point of order.
Councillor Richardson. I've got Councillor Tony
Moore
Richardson.
has already said some of the things and where some of us voted in a certain way because we believed the reports that we were reading. And now Councillor Moore has said the same thing, that the allotment holders was discussed with the allotment holders, and there was a minority, a vocal minority. Well, I would suggest the majority of allotment holders are not happy with what we're doing. That's the whole point. And you're saying, you're repeating something that was in the report before, which we agreed on because we believed it. But I don't think it's completely true. And the minutes, which were kept back for quite a few months, and then they came out, again, the minutes weren't correct. So I think there's a lot of information that we had at that meeting which wasn't completely true. And that's why we wanted to, we need to sort of take this back to the appropriate committee, in my opinion.
Madam Mayor, if I can have a right of reply.
You can, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Since Councillor Richardson named me. Again, you had the paperwork for over 7 days. If there was anything in there that you weren't sure about, and I know there was lobbying going on at the time that these papers were published, you have as a group, we all have as groups, representatives on Neighbourhood Services Committee. If that information isn't being passed forward from committee, from your representatives to the wider groups, then that's a communications issue that needs to be resolved. But Madam Mayor, it's already been clearly defined by the Chief Solicitor that this decision can't be changed for 6 months, and I would therefore move that we make progress.
Thank you. I feel the same as well, Councillor Moore. I think we will move on because I don't think there's anything else to say. Anything else to add?
Chair, can I ask for guidance from our legal advisor on this issue?
Yes, okay, Councillor James.
Okay. The question that I want to ask of Hayley is, what is the procedure to rescind a minute of the council?
I don't believe that there is a procedure to rescind a minute. You can clarify points that are set out in the minutes, but the minutes, once they're approved, that's the official record of the meeting. I think what's being asked here is to rescind a decision, and that under Rule 14.2 and 14.1 isn't allowed.
Thank you, Hayley. I'll take one more question, and that's Councillor Tony Richardson, and then we must move on. Councillor Tony Richardson. Can't hear you, Councillor Richardson. No.
Tony, have you got your headpiece down by your mouth, or is it on the top of your head?
I do apologise.
I do it all the time, Tony.
I don't care what Shane was saying there, because I went to the neighbourhood meeting this week, and I fetched the papers in for the neighbourhood meeting to John Tennant the 10th of March. He said it was passed on the 10th of December. I've got the 10th of December's meeting papers here. It wasn't passed. You held the minutes back for the focus group for 6 months. Can you explain to me why you held them back for 6 months? I'll tell you why. So the rest of the councillors couldn't see there was no decision made. You've hoodwinked the people, the councillors. You have, and the officers from upstairs have pushed it and pushed it. You can shake your head, Shane, That's why I've asked for a meeting with you and Haley with the minutes, and let's see it and let's get it out there. There's no need to lie, but use a lying to the people of this town, and it's bang out of order.
Councillor Richardson, you're making some serious allegations there, and I'm not happy with that at all. Haley, do you want to come in, please?
I think I would just say that the focus group minutes, which I think are what are being referred to, the focus group's not a decision-making meeting. It's a consultative forum to discuss issues with the various allotment holders. So really, I feel like we're getting off point here. The point that we're on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last council meeting.
I asked for them to be referred in the neighbourhoods meeting, by the way, and it's there in the paperwork.
Okay, I think we should move on now. I think we've exhausted
Chair,
everything. You've been,
sorry,
Councillor Akers-Belcher.
Yeah, I did suggest, when I was speaking, that a way forward in order to resolve it is we can't change what's already happened, but we can move that there's a further review of the rules pertaining to a lot, and therefore I would formally like to move that.
Hi, Chair, this is Councillor Cartwright. Can I second said motion? Because again, Christopher Akers-Belcher and I don't always see eye to eye, but I did second the motion initially at Council, and I would like to second this motion that Christopher Akers-Belcher's put forward. Apologies for interjecting, but I can't see anyone.
Thank you, Councillor Cartwright. I'll just take some advice here. Need to take a recorded vote. We'll go for a recorded vote. Okay.
Can I just clarify? Well, can somebody clarify on what? Brenda?
Sorry, no, sorry, my fault. I was on mute. Can Councillor Akers-Belcher clarify and confirm the exact motion, the wording, which has been confirmed by seconded by Lee Cartwright?
Councillor Christopher, can you confirm?
If you want me to confirm, all I'm suggesting is that there's a further review of the rules, the rules pertaining to allotment holders, and for it to be referred back to neighbourhood services for a further review to be undertaken.
And Councillor Cartwright seconded that, so we'll have a recorded vote. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Akers-Belcher, for or against? Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher?
For.
Councillor Brewer? Oh, he's not here, is he? Sorry, apologies. Councillor Brown?
For.
Councillor Buchan?
Against.
Councillor Cartwright?
For.
Councillor Cassidy?
Against.
Councillor Fleming?
For.
Councillor Hall?
For.
Councillor Hamilton?
For.
Councillor Harrison?
For.
Councillor Howson?
For.
Councillor Hunter's not here. Councillor James?
For.
Councillor King?
Abstain.
Councillor Lauderdale?
For.
Councillor Lindridge?
For.
Councillor Little?
Abstain.
Councillor Lyons?
Against.
Councillor Marshall?
For.
Councillor Moore?
Against.
Councillor Prince?
For.
Councillor Tony Richardson?
For.
Councillor Carl Richardson?
For.
Councillor Smith?
Against.
Councillor Stokel?
Against.
Councillor Tennant?
Against.
Councillor Thomas?
For.
Councillor Ward? And Councillor Young?
Against.
Thank you. We'll just to add those up. The motion's carried.
Okay. Thank you, members. We'll move on to there's no item under agendas number 6, 7, and 8. Item 9 is the report of the Audit and Governance Committee to be presented.
Brenda,
by the
sorry.
Chair. Sorry.
Can I just interject
Is that
there?
Councillor Harrison?
I did have my hand up.
Oh, sorry.
You didn't mention number 5.
Oh, I do apologise.
Yeah. Can I just? Yes. Yes, please. Sorry. Just following on from the motion that was unanimously passed at the last council, I am aware that a letter is in the process of being written, but I just wondered when that letter would be ready to send to the minister. This was, if you remember, about school transport, and also what kind of response has there been, or have we any method to set up the investigation that was passed in the motion?
Pass you over to our Managing Director, Denise, please.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. The letter should have gone by now, but due to other pressures, it will be going by the end of the week, and the investigation will also be picked up by the end of this week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry about that, members. We'll go on to the next item. There are no items under agenda numbers 6, 7, and 8. Item 9 is the report of the Audit and Governance Committee to be presented by the Chair of that committee, Councillor Jed Hall. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In my role as Chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, I'm pleased to present to Council and Hartlepool residents the Forum's final report into antisocial behaviour in Hartlepool. Extensive inquiries in previous audit and governance years was concentrated on health, vital issues on Hartlepool Hospital, maternity services in Hartlepool, and mental health. And now we launched into a new project this year on front-facing investigation for antisocial behaviour in Hartlepool. Committee began its inquiry in July 2019, utilising a variety of methods of investigation, including October and November last year, we visited North, Central and South hubs in Hartlepool, care homes, resident groups, asylum seekers, children in care and youth council, 4 youth clubs, taxi drivers, Bellevue outreach team. It was a massive investigation. A town-wide survey was launched and targeted survey of young people. From residents in Hartlepool responded a staggering questionnaires, 379 in total to the council. We have representations from organisations involved in the prevention of dealing with antisocial behaviour, particularly Safer Hartlepool Partnership and the police and the police commissioner, and expert evidence from University of Nottingham-Trent. Dr. James Hunter attended, and interesting, he was talking about more antisocial behaviour on adults rather than young people. That's a very important point, I think. Based on the findings at the moment, a number of conclusions and recommendations have been made. These are listed in sections 14 and 15 of the report, starting on page 30. Why so do not intend to go through all the recommendations? I would like to draw Council's attention to the committee's emphasis on continuing groundbreaking partnership arrangement of the Integrated Community Safety Team in delivering enforcement, support and education activity, including prioritisation of antisocial behaviour as a crime due to its significant impact on victims and its role as a potential precursor to criminal behaviour. Committee's report has been presented to the Sever Hartlepool Partnership and its recommendations have been agreed, pending consideration of a detailed action plan. A detailed action plan for implementation of its recommendations is to be presented to the partnership in November. The action plan agreed by the Sever Hartlepool Partnership will be presented to the Audit and Governance tonight, and implementation of the recommendations monitored on a 6-monthly basis. I want to some of the debates and outcome of the antisocial behaviour investigation last year. Some of my conclusions are, if we had a co-location, as we had now, from Sever Hartlepool Partnership and the police, a lot of residents said to members at the investigation, they said, where could you go with antisocial behaviour problems at the moment? 90% said the police. We need to change that to community safety team in Hartlepool. We've got two numbers, 523 100 in the community safety team, and police 101 and 999 if there was a crime there. I know we've got lack of police, and I think we've got more PCSOs recruited at the moment. Unfortunately, a lot of the police were on patrol about COVID-19. Last week, I saw 3 policemen in the shopping centre to approach people with no masks. I think we have to go to schools. It's very difficult to get into schools because of the curriculum and syllabus, but I think we need to do that. We can report and inform from secondary pupils and primary using the ASBAD and Crucial Crew. I think that we had a long debate about community trigger and council for call of actions. I think there would be a last resort to me. My appeal is to residents of Hartlepool to report all antisocial behaviour incidents at the moment, particularly hate crime and attack the person. And I think we have to say that they can use confidentiality and they don't say their name, but they're put on the list, particularly with the police, and then they'll get action on the normal cause at the moment. I think that antisocial behaviour is leading to criminal behaviour. Extreme example was Baroness Newlove. Her husband was killed, sad I think, after antisocial behaviour incidents in their area. I feel I would say that my long plea would be to councillors in Hartlepool. We've got 30 councillors in Hartlepool, and I would recommend all councillors in their wards to use a conduit to the residents suffering antisocial behaviour to the police and Sever Hartlepool Partnership and get some action. I think a lot of people saying that you'll use the ward councillors and then use those as a conduit to the authorities. I know a lot of information from me. I've got a lot of people approach me about the antisocial behaviour, and it's a hot topic. And I think at the moment, I know we've got a lot of issues with COVID-19 at the moment, but I think it's ongoing. And my appeal to residents and to councillors to use the phone and report. And then we've got some action after that. So the recommendations is to receive in the final report and associated recommendations from the Audit and Governance Committee investigation is antisocial behaviour in Hartlepool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hall. Can I thank everybody who's been involved with this, because it is a huge task to sort out. I actually, as Mayor and Consort, Jen and I went to the ASBAD Day. Very good, excellent, and all the other antisocial behaviour days that we've been to. Also, I travelled with the police one evening, a Friday evening. It was very quiet. It was as if everybody had been told to keep off the streets, but they were telling me of all the problems that they've got, and I'd just like to thank everybody who's been involved in this report. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I've got a number of hands up. Councillor Mike Young, you were first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, yeah, again, a very in-depth report, and thanks for delivering that, Councillor Hall. It's very useful to hear that information. I think one thing that I would add, and it's something that I know you yourself, Councillor Hall, have been championing yourself, is that third-party outlet as well. And I know that there are organisations out there, and I believe Hartlepool United Football Club might be one of them, that if you are worried about retribution towards yourself, if you do report yourself, you can go to a third-party organisation and report it there, and they'll do it in I don't know what the word is, anonymity on your behalf to make sure that that is logged. And I know you've championed that, Councillor Hall, as well. So I just wanted to flag that up and say that that's another good way for people to report antisocial behaviour to the police and get that those issues highlighted. But yeah, a good report, and thanks for delivering that, Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Councillor Brenda Harrison, I haven't missed you this time.
Thank you. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that, you know, this report just covers so many issues that we can't really take them all in at once. And I'll just say something that I have said across the time that we've been doing this project, that education is key. And although Councillor Loynes is really right to say how good the ASBAD days are and the Crucial Crew days, however, that's all there is. And it isn't enough. And that's not our fault. That's the fault of the system at the moment in education, which doesn't really allow people to go in, and not all our schools get this because schools are tied up with so many other things, etc., etc. I won't go on too much, but I think you get the point that we really need to try and get some more of this kind of thing going into our schools at an early age, to use it as prevention rather than dealing with it further down the road. And I would suggest that it would be a good idea to take a lot of this to various seminars across the members to discuss certain aspects of this. Some I think we already have done, but it doesn't hurt to return to it anyway. So again, I think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. I totally agree, actually. Councillor Leslie Hamilton, got your hand?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think for me, being actively involved with this report, along with other councillors, I would just like to put on record my personal thanks to the colleagues in Audit and Governance, in Democratic Services. So that would be Joan and Angela and Dave and all of the other colleagues who really gave up a lot of time to put this report together. And it's a very good and it's a very thorough report. But we could not have done that without the help of these guys who, you know, they came out on a night, on a weekend, they gave up a lot of their own time in order to produce this report. And so for me, I would like to give my personal thanks to all of them. And I'm very grateful that they got involved in the way that they did.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Marjorie James, you next. Councillor James.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, really, and I want to echo what Leslie's just said. But I would also include in that members of the Audit and Governance Committee. That I think this is one of the best reports that's been presented to Council for some considerable time, and it's so far-reaching that hopefully it will make life better for our residents. But the bit that I want to flag up, and I did flag it up in the meeting as well, is that under the current situation where a lot of our families are so stressed financially, and that's going to continue for some considerable time, loan sharks are again active, and I mean very active, on some of our estates, in particular those that are the most deprived communities. And I would like to see Hartlepool Borough Council launch a publicity campaign around loan sharks, again publicising the national helpline, but also making it clear that because loans provided by loan sharks are not legal, there is no onus upon any individual to repay them, and they should report those that are preying upon them with loans to the police and to the national helpline. So I would like to see Hartlepool Borough Council actually republicise, because it's some time since that was done, and I think that we need to carry it in our literature and to have it on our website. And if and when a heartbeat is provided, then we need to make sure that it's in there as well, because this is going to become a real bone of contention in a lot of estates, and families are going to suffer financially for years to come unless we find a method to actually nip it in the bud.
Thank you, Councillor James. I'm sure we'll look at that. Okay, thank you. Councillor Paddy Brown, next.
Thank you, Madam. I think most of it's been said, but I just wanted to reiterate what Councillor Brenda Harrison said, that further seminars, I think it is a great report, but it's a lot to take in, and I think it might get through to a lot more councillors in form of a seminar, of which I'd be more than happy to attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Councillor Carl Richardson.
Yes, Chair. Like others have said, I think it's an excellent report, but as usual, it's always a question of making sure that the recommendations are implemented, and it will be interesting that if this goes ahead, that we could have a feedback on that. Because one of the problems I have in our ward, we've got a big problem with drugs, and one of the things that constantly happens with people is that the residents know where the drug users are, who's getting them, and all the rest of it. And the police apparently know about these things. But as far as the residents are concerned, things can go on for weeks, if not months, and nothing seems to be done about it. Certainly, as far as the residents are concerned. And maybe we should look in conjunction with the police, but also our own antisocial behaviour people, how we can tackle that. And I know people can say, "Oh, well, there's the diaries." Well, even when we keep the diaries, at the end of the day, these issues are not removed. It still goes on for months. And I say a lot of people don't understand it. And at the end of the day, they won't even report it, because they say, what's the use? We've already reported it once. We've already done the diaries, and they're still there. And I just wonder if we can try and put pressure on those in authority to try and change that perception that quite a number of people have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Richardson. There's no more hands up, so we can move on if everybody's quite happy with that report. And as I say, congratulations to everybody. It's a fantastic report and very interesting as well. Sorry, who's got the hand up? Is that Councillor Lindridge?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Pressed that 10 minutes ago, but it doesn't make any difference.
Your
Can you hear me?
hand doesn't come up. I can hear you now, but I didn't see your hand, sorry.
Right. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, there's quite a few bits being mentioned. I think it's a comprehensive, important report, and it would look from the report that I've read, there's been a lot of soul searching, highlighting the pitfalls and some of the weaknesses that we've had in the town. I think as a critical friend here, I'm sure I would be shocked to see that during 2016 and 19, we had a significant increase in ASB in the town.
and we're actually 3 times the national figure, and the 3rd worst in Cleveland. And that was showing a downward trend of about 31%. In this wouldn't appear by the report, which is important, it's highlighted. It's not really what we think is a true reflection, given the residents' feedback. Also, the links to the failure of the police to allegedly report a lot of the incidents. So when the committees, I commend the actual committee for highlighting all of these things. And I think it's really important that we've got is what is a groundbreaking partnership in our integrated community safety team. And this is a success story as far as I'm concerned. It'll be going from strength to strength, because that is linking up with the Cleveland Fire Brigade and the police. And this is what we should be basing the future on. I think it really is important to have a partnership, a working partnership. And it has been highlighted by a few of the councillors on here tonight that the important thing is working in partnership with the Safer Hartlepool Partnership, or anybody for that matter. The key issue, which has been highlighted again, is it's getting results from that. It's how we measure the success of that. So I think there's been a great amount of work put in by the audit and governance, and also the officers. So you can't do this without the support of the officers. And I think we've put in a tremendous amount of work, or the officers have, to get us this far, especially when we take in the impact of COVID. So I think it's a brilliant report, and I look forward to the benefits in the next 12 months or so, if not sooner. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lindridge. I think we move on to a recorded vote now. Is that right? We don't need one. Oh, we don't need one. Sorry, I was just checking there. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll move on to, there's no reports under items 10, 11 or 12. Therefore, we go on to consider item 13 and hand over to the Managing Director, Denise McGuckin, for a business report. Denise?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report that you've received in your pack, and then a subsequent report which came out later, cover 2 items. The first being that members will recall the council has received 2 valid community governance petitions, and the petitions that are received from residents of Wynyard have proposed that Wynyard be removed from Elwick Parish Council, and that a stand-alone Wynyard Parish Council in Hartlepool be established. And the residents of South Fens have proposed that South Fens be removed from the Greetham Parish Council, but without an alternative parish council being established. Upon receipt of the valid petitions, the council must, as a matter of law, undertake a community governance review, and must do so in accordance with the statutory guidance, and the details of which are attached in appendices A and B of the report. The subsequent report which came out
is now joining.
Called the Business Report 2 is regarding the appointment of a representative to the Tees Valley Clinical Commissioning Group and the Primary Care Commissioning Committee. So the council has been requested to appoint an elected member to represent Hartlepool on the Primary Care Commissioning Committee of the new Tees Valley CCG. It has been suggested to council that the appointment of the chair of the Health Wellbeing Board would be the most appropriate nominee in light of the committee. However, there is a decision for council, and instructions from the floor council are requested. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Got a couple of hands up. Councillor Marjorie James. Councillor James.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question, really, about the applications under Parish Council. And I'm particularly raising a question around the Elwick Parish Council arrangements, because I remember a number of occasions when I actually went canvassing with the ex-councillor Beck in what it was Hart Ward. But there are areas of that ward that are covered under the current Elwick Parish boundary. And yet regularly on the doorstep, the request from members of the public was that they wanted to be removed from the parish council because they pay the precept because they're in the boundary, but their children cannot attend Elwick Primary. They're disallowed under another arrangement. So I think that we should also ensure that if we're actually looking at Elwick Parish in this way, and I don't have a problem with that, is that I think those residents that fall into that area of Hart Ward should actually be consulted with as well to see whether that we can actually deal with both sides of the boundary issue and to resolve that outstanding problem.
Thank you, Councillor James.
Can I just come back,
Yeah,
Madam
yeah.
Chair? So the consultation process is set out in Appendix A and recommendations. Obviously, we will consult with all the residents to make sure we get the views of the local people. I need to double check, Councillor James, if we are allowed to widen that scope due to the because in case it's against the petition. But if there is any change to that, I can come back to you. But I think that should be acceptable. But I need to double check.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Councillor Paddy Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I nominate Councillor Stephen Thomas for the position that Denise spoke about? And at the same time, could I also point out Steve's expertise and experience within that area? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Denise or Haley?
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Councillor Richardson.
Well, yeah, I'd just like to second Councillor Brown's proposal, because Steve has been a past chair of health and wellbeing. He's also was chair of adult services, and he has a lot of knowledge in this area. And I think it's important to have somebody experienced, especially in this time of COVID.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any other nominations from the floor? Councillor James.
Thank you. Can I just request, really, I don't know whether he would be interested in it or not, but normally health external to the council has been dealt with by the chair of audit and governance. And if Jed wants to be nominated, then I would nominate him because I don't quite understand why we're actually moving away from that position.
We're just waiting.
Yes, I accept the nomination. Yeah.
Well, and we will also need to check, I think, with the rules of if in case there's any conflict, because Councillor Thomas, I understand, is also an employee of Health Watch, and I just need to double check in case there's any conflict of interest there. If you just bear with me 2 minutes.
Madam Mayor, can I speak, please?
Councillor Little, yes, okay, while we're waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but wasn't Councillor Hall on the CCG? Wasn't he on some kind of governing board with the hospital a few years ago?
I'm not
sure. No, it was the Foundation Trust.
Yeah.
We just
clarified.
Yeah. We're just checking, as I say, about Councillor Thomas.
All right, thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll go to the vote, and I will need to check with the trust if Councillor Thomas is successful.
Yeah, can I just query that? Because let's assume that Councillor Thomas wins the vote. That just leaves us with no one if he is then challenged as that his nomination isn't valid. So it's a nonsense to ask us to vote. We need an answer as to whether there is an issue or there isn't.
Haley's checked the paperwork and it's not clear, Councillor James. So if we've got 2 nominations and
point of order, Chair. Point of order.
If
Councillor Thomas was, when he was involved in Health Watch, he was also the chairman of Health and Wellbeing. I'm sure that was the case.
We're just checking, Councillor Richardson. If you can hang on 2 seconds, please.
Chair, could I interject, please?
Councillor Lindridge.
Yeah, I don't I personally don't see any problem that if Councillor Thomas is selected, or and then he isn't successful in the vote, then it automatically goes to Councillor Hall. I don't see any problem with that. There's only 2 nominees, so if Councillor Thomas is elected and it becomes invalid, then we'll just return and Councillor Hall will take that place.
We're just checking the legalities, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Thomas has wanted to speak, I think.
Yes, I've got Councillor Moore and then I've got Councillor Thomas. Councillor Moore, you were first.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I know my name, well, I wasn't named, but it was suggested that the current Health and Wellbeing Chair be put forward. I'm not particularly, I'm happy if there are others who would like to do it. But I just wonder if there are legalities to be checked around this. When does the decision need to be made? Is it something that we could potentially postpone slightly?
We're just checking, I think.
I think due to the confusion, Madam Mayor, it might be worth deferring this item to the next council meeting so that we've actually can clarify with the CCG regarding their constitution.
I have got Councillor Thomas, so we'll let him speak, and then Councillor Thomas, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just to correct Councillor Richardson. I have chaired Adult Services for 3 years and been a member of Health and Wellbeing Board for 4 years, but have never chaired it.
Right, thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to defer this decision.
Yes, I think it's worth just to double check to make sure that we're all clear.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that concludes my business report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Sorry. Public questions, yes, I'm just checking. Okay, we'll move on to public questions. I've got Mr. Feeney. Are you available, Mr. Feeney, to speak? Hello, Mr. Feeney.
I can't go. Madam Mayor, I think the Constitution means I have to ask the question and then Mr. Feeney can come in for clarification. It's okay. It's the first time we've done this, so that's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So just for members, we've received a question from Mr. Feeney to the Chair of Neighbourhood Services Committee. And the question is, as you will be aware, littering is a huge problem for our town. I hope you are also aware of the fantastic hard work put in by our town's small but passionate community of voluntary litter pickers. An issue that regularly crops up in the community is grass cutting. When a grass cutter goes over a can, for example, it will shred, and that one item could become 20 items and sharp pieces. This means that in a green space of, say, 20 items of litter, it now contains 100 of tiny pieces of litter, resulting in a lot more work for the voluntary litter pickers and poses a risk for children playing on that green space. Whilst I appreciate the budgets are tight and we cannot expect our already hard-working council environmental team to clear every area before cutting the grass, it would be very useful for the public to have access to the grass cutting schedule. This gives a heads up for local litter pickers to have at least a chance of clearing it up before the grass is cut. I understand that schedules are subject to change, but this would still alleviate frustrations of local voluntary litter pickers and provide cleaner and safer green spaces in our town. I look forward to hearing your response. That's to Councillor Tennant as Chair of Neighbourhood Services to respond.
Thank you very much, Denise. With the resources currently available, the team operate a planned grass cutting return frequency of between 14 days up to 21 working days for most open spaces and verges. This equates to approximately 14 cuts in an average year. However, sports pitches, bowling greens and other grass sports surfaces will receive more frequent cuts to ensure that they meet required sports playability standards. During warm, wet, sunny conditions, grass growth can be much quicker than during the cooler, shorter daylight conditions of the autumn and winter. Rapid, dense grass growth makes it more difficult for machinery to cut. Persistent rain creates soft ground and slows, or in worst cases, prevents machinery progress. So as we aim for approximately 14 cuts a year, this can vary depending on the conditions. Because of fluctuating weather conditions, it's almost impossible to develop a fixed timetable or schedule of when a piece of ground will be cut. To answer the question, can we share grass cutting schedules? Operators are trained to check and clear litter as much as possible before mowing. Unfortunately, this cannot guarantee everything is removed and litter can lay within the grass unseen. I would therefore advise anyone concerned about timing a litter pick to consider the grass cutting return frequency monitors if it is getting close to 14 working days since the last grass cut of an area. There is high probability that grass cutting machinery will be returning in the very near future. And that's my answer.
Thank you, Councillor Tennant.
So, Mr. Feeney may ask a supplementary question for clarification purposes, if he so wishes. Mr. Feeney. I'll take silence that there is no supplementary clarification questions asked and hand back to the chair.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 15 to answer questions of members of the council under Rule 10. So are there any questions under item 15A to the chairs about recent decisions of council committees and forums without notice under Council Procedure Rule 10.1? If there's no questions under agenda items 15B, 15C and at item 15D, there are no minutes of the meetings held by the Cleveland Fire Authority or the Cleveland Police and Crime Panel. That concludes the meeting. Thank you very much, and please everybody stay safe. Thank
Chair,
you.
sorry, obviously I can't put my hand up. It's just as a quick question. Is any other business? If I'm permitted, it's just reference.
No, there isn't. Councillor Cartwright, there is no any other business on here.
We don't have any other business, Councillor Cartwright, on council meetings.
Okay, then under councillors' questions, I suppose, then apologies for interjecting. It's particularly around COVID-19.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask my question, Chair?
No. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much. The meeting's concluded now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Bye.
Lee Cartwright.